Right, can you just come over here, please? Right, I just want to show you something here. The A and G are the purines. The T and the C are the pyrimidines, like the word pyramid in that one. I've just written down the word deoxyribonucleic acid, and it's got the ribonucleic acid spelt there, and the initials obviously are DNA and RNA, and I've spelt that down there. The nucleoside, I've just written a definition. The nucleoside consists of nuclear bases, 5 carbon sugar, and the ribose or the deoxyribose, depending on whether it's RNA or DNA. And I've written down the definition for nucleotide. Nuclear bases, nuclear base, 5 carbon sugars, and 1 or more phosphates. So I'll just put that over there. Thank you for that. I just wanted to mention that the 2 carbon nitrogen ring bases are A and G, and they're purines. And the 1 carbon ring base is T and C, and they're pyrimidines. I just thought I'd mention that. And I'd like to just say that the DNA, the DNA is a molecule composed of 2 chains that coil around each other to form a double helix carrying genetic instructions. And another thing I'd like to mention, multicellular is more than one cell, and that applies to the eukaryotes or eukaryotes. Those organisms, eukaryotic organisms, in contrast to the prokaryotic or prokaryotes, which are single-celled, only have 1 cell. And the shape's interesting because in the eukaryotic, it's usually linear. The shape's usually linear, but there is an exception to the rule. This is quite rare when some of the eukaryotic is circular. And again, the other way around for the prokaryotes, circular. That applies to circular shape. It's usually circular. The prokaryotes or prokaryotic, but they again exception to the rule, and it is rare to have, but it does happen. You have linear prokaryotes, but again that's rare. So yeah, that's it. Right. I'd like to talk about something else now, actually, if you don't mind. I'm going to talk about white blood cells. Lymphocyte is a type of white blood cell that produces antibodies. And white blood cells, their main function is defense against disease. And lymphocyte is a type of white blood cell that sends out antibodies which kill germs or microbes is more of a better scientific word for microbes rather than germs. And the phagocytes is a type of white blood cell that ingest or kill bacteria. So that's their role. The antibodies are known as large Y-shaped proteins. Immunoglobulins is a glycoprotein, which is glycoprotein is a type of it has carbohydrates attached to the protein, and the molecules are produced by plasma cells. And white blood cells is a critical part of the immune system. So if I mention a definition of antibody, by specifically recognizing and binding to a particular antigens such as bacteria and viruses, and aiding their destruction by defeating, killing, and destroying the antigens, and the antibodies attack antigens in this way, defeating, killing, destroying. B lymphocytes is an essential component of the immune response, produced in the bone marrow, so it's derived from the bone marrow. B cells migrate to the spleen and other secondary lymphoid tissues, where they mature in the initial stages of maturation, and they travel to the spleen for the final steps of maturation into B cells. And Y-shaped proteins are produced mainly by plasma cells, that is used by the immune system to neutralize pathogens such as pathogenic bacteria. Lymphocytes are divided into B cells and T cells. B lymphocytes produce antibodies, sort of proteins. B lymphocytes produce antibody proteins, gamma globulins. So I just thought I'd mention that. And also I'd like to say a few more things actually. In immunology, an antigen is a substance that evokes an immune response. Provokes, perhaps as well. Formally, they are defined as a substance that causes the production of antibodies. Antibody, a protective protein, is a protective protein produced by the immune system in response to the presence of a foreign substance called an antigen. And the range of substances are regarded by the body as antigens, including disease-causing organisms. When an antigen enters the body, the immune system produces antibodies against it, called antitoxins, which destroy the toxins, poisons some bacteria produce when they have invaded the body. And the antibodies are one of the warriors inside our bodies. They're very good. If I could just have you over here, please. Thank you very much. I've just written down some words here. Sorry about that. Sorry. Immunology, I've spelt it down. IMMUNOLOGY. And I've also given you some other words here. Eukaryotes, eukaryotic, prokaryotic, prokaryotes. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it properly, but that's how they're spelt. And the gamma globulin, the most important antibody is the immunoglobulin, and I think it comes from the gamma globulin. And I've mentioned some granulocytes here, and they secrete granules in their cytoplasm. And there's these ones here. That's EOSINOPHILS, NEUTROPHILS, and BASOPHILS. And the most abundant granulocyte is the neutrophil. And down here, I've mentioned some phagocytes. Phagocytes. And I've got a list of them here. The macrophages, the monocytes, and the macrophages derive from the monocytes. If you like, they're the parents of the macrophages. The monocytes are the parents of the macrophages. And monocytes mature into the macrophages. And I've got dendritic cells here and mast cells. So I've mentioned that four of those are phagocytes. And they destroy particles, ingest them, and they're known as the innate immune system, and they remove harmful microorganisms and they destroy them. Thank you.